Hi everyone, it's Katrina. Number 10. Sea snakes of Fire Mountain. There is a volcano that can be found in a remote part of Indonesia's Banda Sea called Gunung Api, which translates to Fire Mountain. The volcano is still very much active, and underneath the shoreline of crusty lava is an ecosystem of highly venomous sea snakes. These snakes live all around the volatile volcano and even hunt in packs like slithering wolves. To make things even more terrifying for potential visitors, the venomous snakes show no sign of being afraid of divers. There are over 17,000 islands in Indonesia, and hidden within a cluster of them is Gunung Api, which sits 120 miles from the nearest chunk of land. The only way to reach this place is by taking a boat way out into the Banda Sea. The volcano itself rises out of the ocean, and so much of its main body is underwater. Along its submerged slopes are where thousands of venomous snakes can be found lurking and swimming around. Two species of venomous snakes can be found here, the banded and olive sea snake, both of which are extremely venomous. They can grow to over 3 feet long and maneuver just as easily as fish through the water. The only difference is that they have to hit the surface to breathe periodically. The good news is they aren't very aggressive. Divers come to this remote volcano specifically to dive with hundreds of some of the most dangerous snakes in the world, and no one ever gets hurt. It's almost like swimming with dolphins, but way scarier. Number 9. The giant volcano sponge. There is an animal that can live for about 10,000 years, and in some cases as many as 15,000 years. It's called a glass sponge, and they are the animals with the longest lives on the planet. They also happen to be some of the oldest animals in existence right now. Every ocean on Earth has at least some form of glass sponge living in its waters, and they've been around for roughly 635 million years. After over 500 million years of evolution, you can bet the glass sponge has gotten to a point where it's pretty comfortable with itself. Not all glass sponges live forever, though. The sponges that live in Antarctic waters are the ones who have the longest lifespans. Because the colder ocean environment slows the animal's metabolism, they have a greater reduced cell decay rate. Compared to sponges that live in warm waters, cold water glass sponges are basically immortal. The giant volcano sponge is another sponge species that can live for an estimated 15,000 years. These things are so massive you could curl up and go to sleep inside of it. They can be found all throughout the Arctic environment, living on top of extinct underwater volcanoes in the Arctic Ocean. Amazingly, many of these giant volcano sponges have been alive longer than much of human civilization. Number 8. Volcano Sharks. Scientists on a National Geographic expedition coined the phrase Sharkano in 2015 when they found sharks living inside one of the most volatile volcanoes on Earth. The sharks were discovered thriving in an active underwater volcano. It's a place so dangerous that scientists had to return years later with better equipment and underwater robots to understand what the sharks were doing. Ocean engineer Brennan Phillips dropped a baited camera straight into the pounding heart of the volcano. The camera landed 150 feet into the explosive crater, and afterward, they were able to watch the shocking number of sharks circling around inside the volcano. Sharks weren't even the only living things found here. There were also gelatinous kinds of zooplankton, bigger fish like bluefin trevally, and six-gill stingray. There were even scalloped hammerhead sharks swimming around in the bizarre volcanic environment. The volcano is called Kavachi, and it's been continuously erupting since at least 1939. Lava from this volcano creates new islands on a regular basis. The summit of the volcano is about 65 feet beneath the surface of the ocean, making the water around it toasty and warm. In fact, the water surrounding the volcano is scalding hot and acidic. It's also full of dangerous volcanic particles. These materials are typically bad for fish, and yet sharks seem to be thriving in the hostile environment. It seems there's a small group of animals who have grown accustomed to the harsh reality of volcano life. And at the moment, scientists are still trying to sort out what makes living in an active volcano's mouth so appealing. Number 7. The Volcanic Gastropod. The scalyfoot snail is a volcanic gastropod and is one of the toughest snails that's ever evolved. It grows a suit of impressive iron armor that protects it from danger where it lives on volcanic vents in the Indian Ocean. The volcano snail, sometimes called the sea pangolin, lives in some of the deepest and hottest underwater volcanic vents that scientists know about. It survives inside a place that would boil most animals alive. But it doesn't only survive, it thrives. With a shell of pure iron sulfide, the extreme heat conditions of the volcanic vents don't even bother the snail. Scientists never imagined they'd find creatures living inside hydrothermal vents in the Indian Ocean until they discovered the volcano snail in 2001. It was first found in the K-ray hydrothermal vent field, and then again in the solitaire field. At the time, scientists suspected it to be a sort of a freak discovery, but finding them in multiple locations confirmed their existence as a species. We now know the volcanic gastropod lives 1.5 miles beneath the surface in areas that reach temperatures of 750 degrees Fahrenheit. But one of the more interesting things about the volcano snail is how it grows its shell. It draws iron sulfide from the environment and turns it into a natural suit of armor. This perfectly protects its soft insides, allowing it to slither around safely while slurping up bacteria through a large processing gland. Pretty advanced stuff for a snail, huh? And now for number 6. But first, it's shoutout time! I wanted to give a big thank you to Pumiria and Angela Hernandez for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos about amazing discoveries and strange animals. Number 6. Flamingos of the Altiplano. High up in the Bolivian Andes are flocks of flamingos living in the extremely salty water of volcanic pools. Hidden between a pair of volcanic peaks, situated 16,000 feet in a mountain pass, is a lake of intensely red water. It almost looks like a lake of blood. It is here that the volcano flamingos have made their home. The red water hides them from potential predators since they blend in so well. And in the rough terrain of South America's Altiplano, there aren't too many predators to deal with anyway. The flamingo colonies were discovered here in the late 1950s, when explorers found Laguna Colorada, the volcano-ringed lake in the mountains. They were shocked to see 3 different species of volcanic flamingo living in the Red Lake: the Chilean, Andean, and James flamingos. Researchers in the 1960s then figured out that the Red Lake is dotted with seemingly bottomless pits that discharge hot geysers from somewhere deep in the earth. The lake spans a massive 14,826 acres, yet is only about 3 feet deep. The ancient people who lived in the region believed the red color of the lake came from the blood of the gods themselves. In reality, the deep crimson comes from algae and minerals in the water, which is what attracts the flamingos. The lake is fed by a never-ending supply of bubbling water from its volcanic source, deep underneath the plateau. Number 5. Volcanic Mice. Scientists recently confirmed that a species of volcano-dwelling mice has earned the title of being the highest living mammal in the world. These little guys were found living on the peak of Yuyayaco at just over 20,000 feet above sea level. Yuyayaco is a huge volcano that straddles the border of Argentina and Chile. It's such an inhospitable place that you'd never expect anything to be living inside it. The summit is simply too high, making the air dry and frigid. The volcano's peak also lacks the necessary oxygen that most animals require. Yet in 2020, scientists found mice living inside the volcano. Never before have mammals been found dwelling in such a peculiar place. Jay Storrs from the University of Nebraska says it's hard to overstate how hostile the environment is. There is very little vegetation, there's no rain, and temperatures can reach under minus 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Despite how bitterly terrible it seems living here, the yellow-rumped mouse appears to be doing just fine. It's living at the peak of the highest historically active volcano in the world. The mice get enough food, and they don't seem to suffer from altitude sickness. They also appear to be immune to any disease that could threaten them. Scientists are now desperate to study these mystery mice to see if they can help other creatures adapt to such extreme environments. Scientists believe the secret of the mouse's biology could lead to medical miracles. Number 4. The Snaggletooth Dragonfish. An Australian exploration team was exploring the ocean floor for lobster larvae when they came across 4 ancient volcanoes. Living inside these prehistoric earth chimneys was a tiny, extremely creepy-looking fish that couldn't have been larger than a person's fingertip. It looks horrifying when you zoom in on its face, but the truth is that the Snaggletooth Dragonfish is minuscule. The extra small, completely black fish has translucent fangs and no scales. For some reason, it's made its home amidst extinct volcanoes at the bottom of the ocean. Biologist Chris Canale says the snaggletooth is part of the Asternisthus genus, and that there are about 9 other species living in the area. However, in total, there's 287 species in the dragonfish family across the world. The black fish is creepy and strange, but it's not all that rare. The only reason people don't see them more often is because they live in the deep ocean. They hide in the darkest depths, where people aren't exactly going to stumble across them. And after all, most fishermen don't toss their nets into the mouths of volcanoes. Number 3. Lava lizards. In the Galapagos Islands, there are 7 different species of lava lizard. These lizards are some of the most abundant reptiles in the Galapagos Islands, and they look exactly like miniature iguanas. They can be found in huge groups basking in the sun on lava rocks, which is where they get their name. Some of them are green, while others are black, and many of them are decorated with golden stripes and yellow specks. These strange little lizards are all about holding territory. Male lava lizards often try to scare away potential competitors by performing push-ups to look bigger and stronger than the next guy. This will typically scare away other males, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes there's a push-up contest between 2 males who each feel they are bigger than the other. If the contest doesn't work, the lizards typically resort to slapping each other with their tails or biting their opponent until one of them finally gives up the territory. The lava lizards evolved specifically to thrive in this remote volcanic environment. Like many other animals in the Galapagos, they are currently vulnerable to extinction, but they're not gone yet. They can still be seen lounging on the solidified lava of the islands next to groups of marine iguanas, also basking in the sun. Number 2. Volcano Rabbits. As some of you may know, there are a bunch of volcanoes near the busy streets of Mexico City, and 4 of them can be reached in as little as 45 minutes. These volcanoes happen to be the homes of volcano rabbits, tiny mammals with an unusual habitat. The volcano rabbit is the world's 2nd smallest rabbit, and it lives on the slopes of 4 volcanoes in central Mexico. According to National Geographic, the volcano rabbit is currently endangered and has fewer than 7,000 members still alive in the wild today. Volcano rabbits only weigh around a pound when fully grown, and they have stubby ears and short fur. The tiny animals are typically brown or black in color, evolving over the years to be camouflaged against volcanic soil. They spend most of their time doing ordinary rabbit activities, such as breeding in the warm months. They also come out in the morning and at dusk to scavenge for food, but the majority of their time is spent hiding in underground bunkers. They live in small tunnels inside the volcanoes to hide from predators like weasels and hawks. Number 1. Megapods. The megapode goes by many different names. Some call them incubator birds, while others call them mound builders. But most of the time, they are known as volcano birds. Whatever you want to call them, the megapods are fascinating creatures that have evolved to utilize volcanoes in their breeding habits. Megapods are roughly the size of chickens with small heads and big feet, and they can typically be found scurrying through remote woodlands. Volcano birds are most impressive for hatching their eggs in the most mature condition of any other bird species. Megapod chicks hatch with their eyes wide open and are fully coordinated. They are also complete with all their feathers and are able to run and fly right off the bat. The megapod is basically born as an adult and can chase after its prey immediately after hatching. This is in contrast to most baby birds who have to be fed by their parents until they're strong enough to leave the nest. Scientists aren't entirely sure how the megapod gives birth to such grown-up offspring, but it could have something to do with the way they incubate their eggs. Instead of incubating their eggs with their body heat by sitting on them like most birds do, they bury them in volcanic soil, relying on geothermal heat to warm their eggs. They don't live inside volcanoes, but they use the volcanic soil to birth super bird babies. At least some of them do. There are different ways these birds lay their eggs depending on where they live. Birds who live in places like Indonesia and the Solomon Islands, where there are plenty of volcanoes, rely on the intense sun to warm the volcanic sand they bury their eggs under. Other birds will create huge nests of decaying vegetation, then bury their eggs under that. The one thing they all have in common is that their eggs are made of about 70% yolk. Thanks for watching! What's your favorite volcanic animal? Let me know in the comments below and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye!